What's good, O'Shea Duke Jackson channel? It's your boy O'Shea Duke Jackson back at it again with another interview, man. And I'm so glad that you brothers are here. Make sure that you hit the bell, subscribe, and also for the brother that we have here today, his comment is pinned to the first comment pinned to the top. Make sure you check him out. And we're here with brother Ike. Go ahead and explain to them, brother, what your channel is about and who you are.
Well, first of all, thank you to O'Shea Duke Jackson and to the O'Shea Duke Jackson family. My name is Ike, and in my channel, we talk about being better and doing better with a strong emphasis on doing. And information is presented in a very simple, measurable, intuitive, and actionable way. And this information goes all the way from mastery of subjective consciousness, meditation, and then also sales, marketing, business, and how you apply these two things together. And then lifestyle, intellectual pursuits, and aesthetic pursuits. So everything from, again, consciousness, meditation. What are the right inputs you need to put in order to get the outputs that you want? How do you apply that to being a better salesperson, marketer, presenter, public speaking, so on and so forth, and then general other intellectual pursuits. So that's what generally my channel is about.
All right. And that kind of content is definitely needed in the Black male space, especially in the African American or the Black American spaces here on YouTube. And we thank you for coming in and enriching the content for the Black male community and for whoever else subscribes to your channel. We did a video. I think was it in November? Was it November or October?
Well, it must be November, I believe.
It was November, and it was last month. I was actually at the time in Kenya, right? And actually, the end of October, almost the beginning of November. And what we talked about at that time, the video did pretty good. The video got about 20,000 views. We were talking about educated Black men, right? And how a lot of times it's a little different for them. But today we're going to be talking about late blooming and the effects that has, because men take a longer time to develop, and that late bloomers always win in the end. Now, what do you think about that?
Well, first of all, I'll have to say that I can definitely relate. Okay. You mentioned that men take a longer time to cook, if you will. Yes, men are made, they're not born. But even within the group of men, you have also early bloomers and late bloomers.
Right.
So talking about specifically the late bloomer group, I can definitely relate with that in the sense that let's start from the social side, right? Just being an introvert, being the socially awkward introvert that had to deal with how you come out there and come out of your shell and interface with the social world, if you will. That was something that I had to learn later on in life, at least not as early as others would have. Also, you could talk about academically. Okay, I'm an engineer. I always liked physics. Okay, I knew that I was going to go into the sciences, but I always had trouble with math. Partially due to my really bad eyesight, meaning that I learned through my ear for the most part, but you can't listen to math, okay? You're going to need to see what the teacher is writing, so on and so forth. But as a result, I had to really struggle with math at the lower levels and consolidate my knowledge, get a nice firm foundation. And then after calculus, it kind of took off. I started getting A's from there. So getting my engineering degree, I had to kind of maneuver to try to get that thing done. It averages about 5 years to get the engineering degree. It took me about 6.5 years. So I can relate also in that regard. And then I graduated in 2008. Market fell flat on its face, especially the construction market. And I'm in the construction industry. I'm a structural engineer. So I was that guy that had to move back home. Okay. This was about 13 years ago. I had to move back home. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. And I was figuring out what I was going to do next. I had to go get my master's degree while I was figuring out what I was going to do next and how I was going to maneuver my way back into the career path. And then I started a business in 2013. First 2 years are kind of rough. Only in the past 4 years or so am I starting to see that exponential growth. So first thing is definitely I can relate to being a late bloomer. Now to the question about what I think about the winning aspect of it, right? Well, I think that you should consider yourself lucky as a man if you are a late bloomer, because by definition, you have your options open still. Because by definition, if you go down a path early, then your particular options narrow down, whether it be options vis-a-vis where you stay, family options, career options, so on and so forth, right? So you have options open, and then also you're going to be in a position whereby you have the ability to make choices vis-a-vis these options at a later stage in your life where you're wiser, right? Presumably you're wiser. Presumably you're not a late bloomer and just spending all that time late blooming, not doing anything. So you're in a better position in your life. You have more experience and you can make better choices with regards to those options that you have open. And also, you have more leverage. Let's just put it that way. So I would say I 100% agree. If you find yourself being in that late bloomer position, you should count your lucky. You should be thankful because you've dodged a lot of bullets. You have more options open. You're in a position to make better decisions with regards to those options. And you have more leverage at the negotiating table, whichever negotiating table that is.
Brother, you really summed that up perfectly. And I'm going to go over those in a minute. Now, I saw those 5 things. But what I want to kind of go back and I want to talk to you about, what you needed to do when you were struggling. Because obviously physics and you taking engineering is calculus based, so you need to take, the mechanics and heat and the electricity and magnetism. And I went through a similar road, undergrad. My math was also not very strong. And I had to go and take the remedial, intermediate algebras at junior college level and things like that. But you took a step backwards and dealt where you were at and to go forward. Now, I want to kind of, transpose this. While other people, you're talking about those guys who early bloom, they're already maybe the same age, maybe in the same class. You see that they're already doing well in the field. You're still behind. How do you deal with the guys that are on time? They're doing what they're doing at the right age. They're graduating on time. They're doing what they're supposed to. And at the same time, you're still on the path. You're making progress, but you're behind them. And everybody knows it too. It's not like it's a secret, like, oh, you're still behind. How do you deal with the people who are blooming on time or early, and you still, as a brother, you're still late?
This is obviously a psychological thing and an emotional thing. You have to have a healthy dose of self-awareness wherever you get it from. Okay. And some people get it from sports, let's say, right? You play sports, let's say martial arts. You do some kind of martial arts, you get your ass beat. You understand that you're not perfect. You understand that you're going to take some L's, if you will. This healthy dose of self-awareness makes it such that you're not going to constantly be looking down on yourself or needing your self-esteem constantly pumped up all the time. So for me, I just had the advantage of being an introvert, meaning I did not really require a lot of social validation. Okay. And also I had the advantage of being someone that, let me just say, I'm multi-talented. All right. Yeah. I'm going to say it myself. Okay. So when you're multi-talented, okay, you know that it's going to take you a longer time to be able to get to wherever you're getting to. So you have that advantage of understanding that you're not in a rush. Secondly, you can use your skills from your other aspects in your life to help in whichever way that is moving slowly. So I had this math deficiency, or which is related objectively to the eyesight deficiency, plus the fact that I need to learn things at a granular and foundational level before I can move up. I can't really deal with symbols in terms of just equations and stuff. No, I got to go down to the intuitive level, to the level of visualization, and then to the level of the charts, and then to the equation. The equations are at the top. The bottom is the intuition and the foundation, right? So having really strong intuition and having a creative mindset, I'm like, okay, cool. I know that I can get to the level of the equations. It's going to take me a longer time. I know that I have this skill for foundational kind of knowledge, so I'm going to use that. Okay. So if you understand, basically that aspect that I just mentioned is using your different talents in order to help you in areas where you are behind. This also allows you to know that you are on a different pace. Yes, if time is being measured, you're going to lose. You're going to lose the time game. But you need to understand, with your healthy dose of self-awareness, which is the first thing that I mentioned, that life is it's a marathon. Okay, a never-ending marathon, not a sprint. Now, if you're an introvert, you generally can kind of deal with that in the sense that you're not always looking outward for validation. So for me, that's kind of how I dealt with it, and to what and anyone can kind of glean certain learnings, if you will, from what I just described. Number one, get a healthy dose of self-awareness, okay? And then number
Mm-hmm.
two, use your talents in other areas to help you out in the areas where you're deficient, and know that it's a long game.
You just described my life, because multi-talented people, which I would consider myself, I've late bloomed in certain aspects of things I'm trying to do, but my talent has been able to keep me going, like even with these channels and the things that I'm doing, and that's true. And one of the things I like that you said is, how self-awareness, and I want to add to that as far as a lot of black men, because in the black community, the Caribbean community, especially in the Nigerian community where you're from, there's a lot of pressure on guys to perform and perform well. And especially in the African households, like, why are you not performing well? Your brother is performing well. I know. I mean, not in our households, but I know from, the African families, like there's a lot, hey, we worked hard to get here. You need to be here, right? And and the thing that I like that you said is have self-awareness. I want to add that for a lot of black men out there. Give yourself credit for, you might not be there, but you're still on the path. You're still closer than you were last year. And then also, I like what you said about not worrying about social validation. That's important, because a lot of brothers want to quit because, you don't have the money now. The women are not checking for you at the time. How are you able to, I know, being an introvert, well, assuming you were an extrovert or a person that wasn't an introvert, how would you deal with the lack of social validation or the pressures of social validation by being a black man and not necessarily at your goals at a certain age?
It's tough. Okay, now everything I'm about to say, you have to take it with a grain of salt, because I am an introvert. So giving advice to somebody who doesn't have that superpower of being an introvert, where we could just lock ourselves in our cave and I could be away for 6 months doing my thing. I don't care what anybody is doing out there. Now, for those who are not like that, I would say, especially if you're still young, pick up something that is difficult to do. Okay, this will teach you that self-awareness. Okay, I mentioned something like some kind of sports or some kind of martial arts, for example. I think martial arts are great. Okay, getting hit in the face is great in terms of giving you that self-awareness. But when you're going to pursue, let's say it's an academic path, a career path, pick up something that is really hard to do, because it forces you to put your head down and not really look up to worry about what's going on around you. So studying engineering, for example, you're not going to have a lot of time to look around at who's getting the girls or not. You can't be doing thermodynamics and chemistry 3 and this and that and still worrying about popping bottles and who's going to the hottest clubs and so on. So this will keep you distracted. It'll keep you distracted in a good way. Plus, it works out in the long run, because you want to spend your earlier years doing the harder things. You have more energy. No one is really expecting much of you anyways. And I know that you did mention that, yes, in African families, there's a lot of pressure on why aren't you doing, why aren't you doing, why aren't you doing? But it also still is understanding that you are on the journey, right? No one is going to say, well, unless you leave, unless you like drop out, or unless whatever, then they'll be like, well, where's your business or something, right? But as long as you are on the path still, people are going to give you that credit. Do hard things while you're young, because no one is really expecting great things from you at this point anyways. So it is good to be down there struggling as a man, right? And that struggle will keep you distracted from that social validation thing. The more you can suck your time out from having the time to worry about what these other people are doing, even if you're an extrovert, right? Even if you're an extrovert, pick the hardest thing that you're going to do. Don't pick an easy major. Don't pick an easy path. And that way you're going to be competing more with yourself in the past. When you make that little breakthrough in your particular difficult endeavor, which you should be competing with yourself in the past anyways, so something else that I should mention, that never compete with anyone else, because other people vis-a-vis competition is just a figment in your imagination. What I'm saying is, other people are just a figment in your imagination. You don't know them. You don't know where they're at. You don't know what their skill levels really are. You don't know the problems that they really have. The only person that you can at least have some semblance of knowledge about, and we know that even ourselves, you don't know, right? But you have some semblance of knowledge about yourself, especially yourself in the past vis-a-vis the pursuit of a particular task, reaching a particular goal. So hunker down, do something hard, compete against yourself, and that way you'll be distracted from needing all that social validation.
That's a great point. That's a great point. Excellent points. Now, I want to, kind of go back to the setbacks that you've had, and obviously you're doing very well now. But your story reminds me of some of the stories of some of the great athletes in the last 30 years. Marvin Hagler was a ferocious middleweight champion out of Massachusetts that was a late bloomer in the sport, right? He was a guy that didn't get a gold medal and nobody gave him a shot. Same thing with Bernard Hopkins. He came out of prison and he was a late bloomer, started at 26. Steve Young had a lot of expectations as a quarterback for the Buccaneers and was a bust. And then he came back and sat behind Joe Montana and then became one of the more accurate, passers in the history of the league. And, having setbacks, finally graduating, getting the infrastructure and the foundations of your mathematics to build up to pre-calculus, calculus 1, 2, 3, linear equations, what are differential equations, stuff like that. Then to graduate, do very well. The economy is bad for structural engineers. You have to go back and get a master's. And did you get a master's also in the same like engineering also?
Yeah, I got a master's in structural engineering, yes.
Then after that, going into something totally different, which I think what you do now is not structural engineering, I'm pretty sure.
Well, I do technical sales, but my company is an engineering consulting company, right? But I do technical sales for another corporation. Let's just put I call it a 9 to 5, even if it's not a 9 to 5, because sales is, you kill what you eat. I'm getting paid based on performance, right?
Right.
But I am still in the construction industry selling construction equipment,
I see.
So it's still ancillarily related, but my engineering firm, Prometheus Engineering, check it out, prometheusengineering.org, is an engineering consulting firm. But the other things that I've done that are outside are kind of like in the music space and other kind of artistic spaces and so on and so forth. So I do tend to branch out and try to find ways of building talents and building networks in different arenas.
Yeah, what you're doing now. But let me ask you this. How are you able to handle that? Because the market's bad. Engineering is one of those things where people are told, going to health, going to engineering, it's always jobs. And then it wasn't. And then that was a setback because you put all your efforts into this. You went to a very good, California school. How did you deal with that setback in knowing now, like, well, I know what I'm supposed to do, and now I'm still not there?
It can't be a complainer, man. And this is the point where it's just going to be like more preaching rather than saying, well, you could do this and you could do that and you could do the other. This one is just a straight up admonishment that you cannot be a complainer. And you have to understand that the only way growth happens is through failure. You don't remember how many times you fell off the bicycle before you just know how to ride the bicycle, right? But in order to ride the bicycle, there is a certain number of times you must fall out. It's not a question of how can I not fall out? You have to fall out. It is necessary. And it is my strong belief that most things are like riding a bicycle. All kinds of learning, all kinds of growth are like riding a bicycle. Basically, even the scientific method is a way of trial and error, right? I know they call it hypothesis and then experiment and then restate the hypothesis, whatever. That's just a way of saying I had an idea and then I messed around in the lab and then it failed. Okay, now I know that one doesn't work. And then I tried the other idea and I messed around and it failed. Even in medicine as well, right? You just kind of, you're reverse engineering. You're trying to see what works. Oh, crap, he died, right? And then you go on and you improve. Engineering, medicine, the scientific method is just a method formerly of stating the trial and error. We also know this in our organism that in order to learn, using the bicycle analogy, you have to fall. So this is just a fact. So don't be a complainer. When I was trying one thing over here, I got my first job 2008 at Caltrans, Department of as a bridge engineer. Okay, nice cushy job, but the market crashed. I got laid off. Okay, what am I going to do? Everyone experiences the same kinds of emotions when those things happen, but you just move on. You don't complain. You know that, okay, I have learned one aspect of myself, and trust me, the things that I learned, back then in that particular job are still with me till today, right?
Right.
It was not a failure, even in the aspect of the practical things learned doing that endeavor. But more definitely, it definitely was not a failure in the sense of your. Let me say one thing here. Just like your muscles, you need to put stress on them in order for them to grow, right? Same thing with your immune system. You know this very well. You're a medical guy. Same thing with your bones. Same thing with your psyche. The complex systems, ecosystems, economy, and the economy, but especially biological systems, operate on the proposition of use it or lose it.
Right.
Speed it up or lose it. If you
Right.
are in a comfortable path, you actually atrophy and die.
Right. Right. No. Absolutely. And that's definitely true. I want to also go back to, you said 5 things, the winning aspect
Hmm.
of blooming late. Number one, your options are still open.
Hmm.
I believe you said that you're wiser. You have better choices. You have more leverage. There's another one that you said. Think I wrote it down wrong, but you know,
Huh.
now that you're successful and looking back at the things that been able to accomplish, knowing that now you have more leverage, now you can make the better decisions. Your options are still open. When you look back and when you look at the things that maybe some of the young black men are, because in the African American community, what I'm seeing now, and
Hmm.
as a young man, I had those stresses, while, going to school is such a long road. There are guys that are, rapping now, guys that are selling drugs, guys that are doing this, are getting girls. And, I'm out on the bus, catching the bus to Cal State Sacramento. And, I'm doing this and doing that. And now that I look back at it in hindsight, I remember my grandfather always told me, he said, women are always going to be here. You just make sure you keep your head in those books. And when I look at guys like us, I mean, you're richer than me, but when I look at it now, he's right. And my grandfather wasn't a very, educated man, and back in hindsight, what would you tell your old self if, the Ike at maybe 22, 21, what advice would you give your old self and even young black men right now, or even guys that are doing career changes and things like that? What would you tell them right now? If you could
Mhm.
talk to your old self or guys right like that.
Yeah, we already kind of told them that, hey, and I also heard that thing too about, well, either the women would always be there or the rewards would be there at the end of the race, whatever the rewards may be. And we already mentioned that, yes, down the line, you'll be in a better position to make these better decisions. You have your options still open, you have more leverage, and so on and so forth. And we all know that men are made, right? They're not born. But now I would just have to add to that that different recipes take different amounts of time to cook. So if you're someone back now, young person listening, let's take the multi-talented aspect. If you're someone that has a certain amount of versatility, just know that you're going to have a longer road. Okay? Know that you're going to have a longer road, but also you're going to have more staying power, right? Because versatility always wins the day. Okay? Because an environment is always changing. That's the law of the universe. Entropy is always happening. Things are always changing. Take 2020, the beer flu, right? Some people thought they had it made. I don't know which particular way in which they thought they had it made, but many people got undercut, okay, this
Right,
year. No one saw this coming. So,
right.
but if you are someone who is versatile, you would have had more options. Don't be satisfied with the bare minimum. I'm sorry, you're
Yes.
gonna,
No, go ahead. You're doing good. I'm pointing
yeah.
at you.
Don't be satisfied with the bare minimum in the sense that, let's just take a stool. The bare minimum number of legs for a stool to stand up is 3 legs, right? A stool with legs, okay? 3 legs, okay? And you're like, okay, I got my 3 legs. I don't need any more. Anything else is redundant. Anything
Mhm,
else is inefficient, right? These are
mhm.
sound arguments. Efficiency, redundant. Like, I got it made. I don't have to worry about this. I don't worry about that. But guess what? One leg gets kicked off, boom, and you're on the floor. If you're a stool with 8 legs, yes, you're not as efficient. Okay, it takes longer to build that stool or to cook that recipe, and it is not as efficient in the sense that, hey, you're using up extra stuff. There's redundancy. You have 5 extra legs, but guess what? let's say 2020 comes along or certain other things come along. Let's say as we continue to get into more and more robotics, more and more outsourcing, more and more artificial intelligence taking jobs away. Hey, two legs get knocked out of your eight-legged stool. You just rebalance, right? Rebalance. You can lean on certain other aspects of yourself. So what I'm saying is, if you have certain kinds of versatility, cultivate it and know that it'll take you a longer time, but you are actually going to surpass the other person who only has one particular kind of skill, maybe not at a very high level. They're just, barely good at one thing and then they go down that one path. You are going to, while they're going up, you're going to still be over here cooking your one skill or your multiple skills. But once you get it once you get those 10 legs in your stool, you're going to outlast everyone else. Okay. Then there's the other thing, which is if you are, on the other hand, a one trick pony, but really, really good at that one thing, okay, that also takes a long time to cook. Einstein was a late bloomer, right? We all know the story. He
Right.
was a loser. Einstein was a loser, and he needed all that time sitting in the patent office thinking about his ideas because he was going to the top of Mount Olympus. Okay, and it's going to take you a long time to get to the top of Mount Olympus if you're super talented in one particular kind of thing. So you may be versatile, or you may be super talented in one thing. Okay. But overall, understand that it's going to take you a long time for any kind of extraordinary effort to happen. Okay, and that overall, I would just go back to this versatility thing. That
For sure.
overall, you should be, regardless of where you fall, right?
Mhm.
But because that's the way the world works, you should be making sure that you're not just doing the bare minimum, have three legs on the stool, and say, "Oh, I'm cool, I'm comfortable." No, go ahead and stretch yourself out, get uncomfortable, open up some new talents, hone current talents, open up some new networks, challenge yourself, because
Right.
that stuff is what gives you staying power.
That's what I always talk about in my personal life. Staying power. You even see creators on YouTube that come in with, the one trick pony kind of content. And then you see in 2 years, they're off the platform or they can't afford to be on the platform anymore. But for what you talked about, right? And it's
Mm-hmm.
not being versatile. It's not, developing more skill sets. It's not getting into more arenas. And that's the thing that I like about, what we're seeing now in the black media space as far as
Hmm.
men. And when brothers like you that come in and really drop the knowledge, especially on, it works for brothers even our age. We have some brothers that, they have realized, well, damn, coronavirus has really showed me that I'm not versatile. I don't have enough tricks
Hmm.
in my bag. So now
Hmm.
you have some guys that are going to be, maybe non-traditional students. Now, again, are they going to change career paths? Because now they understand at like what age 40 or age 45 that, hey, I need to do something a little bit different. And and there's no age limit on late blooming. And what I would ask you is this: what if you're a person though? And it's the last question because you knocked everyone I put out of the box.
Hey.
But what if you're a brother that, and I know we've been kind of catering towards a younger generation, our guys gonna be our age are younger. There's some brothers that actually watch this channel, they're in their 45s and 50s, and maybe they're
Mm-hmm.
going through a divorce, and maybe they're going through something like that, and now they're starting over right now. And some brothers, when they like my brother George Macon, he was like, you know what, I'm 43, and I like the tech things, but I feel kind of stupid, going back to school at this age, or feeling kind of
Mm-hmm.
dumb that I'm this age and doing this, and I'm kind of worried about because I'm 43, I'm 44,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of brothers that are right, they're thinking like, what, I'm 40, I'm 39, I'm 49, like I'm doing this all over again. That I feel kind of stupid. I might as well start where I'm at. What would you tell somebody that is a career changer, divorced, or something like that, and they have those thought processes because you know this is where they're at right now?
100%. So I would first of all commiserate with them that I too understand those things, and not just the failures in my younger years and the late blooming and so on and so forth. But in two aspects. One is I'm a doer, and I believe in doing, and hence I fall flat on my face many times, right? So I'm constantly failing, okay, failing forward, as they say. That's kind of my strength. I'm not a strategist. I'm not a CEO type. I'm more of an entrepreneur type. I just hop in the pool. and it's sink or swim. So that's one aspect in which I commiserate. The other aspect is even in my recent past. Okay, this was about what, like 4 years ago now. Okay, I was in a long-term relationship, engaged, and so on and so forth, practically married, right? And that whole thing blew up. It blew up with rather dire consequences as well. So it's not that, oh, I'm just coming out here putting on a smile, oh, everything's all great, yeah, woo, 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 money world, super chat Jesus. No. Yes, that's kind of the way in which I present myself, because that's where I come from fundamentally, right? But
Mhm.
doesn't mean that in the practical world, objectively, that there's not a lot of craziness going on. So I commiserate with them in that regard. Then I would add this: you have a lot of advantages. Okay, we talked about the advantages of the younger person in the sense that he has time to do certain things, and no one is really expecting much of him. So the no one is expecting much of him aspect is what you mentioned, where it's like, oh, as an older person, people are expecting much of me. They're not expecting me to be in this class, right? So I'm not that younger person that people could just overlook. People are going to be like, oh, why are you here? Okay, fine. That is the con of your side. But guess what you have over the younger person? And this is true of anybody who goes back to school and does a master's degree and so on and so forth. They find that they're a lot more focused. They can get things done a lot better. And there are basic reasons for that. You have a firmer foundation in terms of your knowledge of yourself and how you learn.
Right,
Okay,
right, right.
you know how you learn, and also you have more resolution. You are there for a reason. You are there to, even when I was getting my master's degree, I also experienced that. Okay, in my undergraduate years, like, okay, whatever. But when I was in my master's degree, I knew the program, I knew how I worked, and I knew what I was there for. So boom, I did it. So yes, you are the person that people are expecting some stuff from, but we already mentioned before that, hey, don't worry about outside. Those people are not living your life, and you're not living their life. And trust me, here's something I would tell you: people don't spend a lot of time thinking about you. Okay, I don't care who you are.
Oh, say it again. Say it again. Say it again.
People don't spend a lot of time thinking about you. I don't care who you are. Okay, even if you're Bill Gates, okay, and there's all kinds of conspiracy theories about you out there in the world. Even the deepest conspiracy guy about Bill Gates probably spends like 5 minutes thinking about Bill Gates. So, not to talk of you, sir, whoever you are, John Smith, people are not thinking about you. You are thinking that people are thinking about you.
Right,
No, people got problems. They woke
right,
up today with a backache. Their grandma died. Their mom told them they were a loser. Their daughter is a thought. Whatever it may be, all kinds of stuff is going on in their lives, okay?
right,
They're not
right,
spending time thinking about you. So
right.
the only real disadvantage that you have, which is that thing about, okay, people expect more of me, so on and so forth, is mainly imaginary, and you can get over that imaginary thing. What the real thing is you have an advantage in the sense that you understand yourself, you know how you learn, you have a solid foundation of that you can kind of build knowledge up from, while other people don't have that foundation. So you can actually learn easier, even though your neurons are not firing as quick, but there is a foundation that you can build up from, and that is an advantage that you have over the younger people.
Yeah, you know what? That's you summed it up. And guys, brother Ike be bringing the heat, and we're so glad that he is, enriching our platform here in the the Black media spaces. And it's good to have talented content creators. And you can't judge the person because they're new to the platform or they're just starting off, have a lot of subscribers. You never know what person will come and give you. It's one of the better interviews I've done all year, and he's a very, very talented, he's a very articulate man, and we need more brothers like this to let people know that, hey, you need Black men out there that really have their head on straight. And what's so funny is a lot of women are going to watch this because maybe they can understand the plights of what it takes to be a man of success. It's a long road, it's a hard road, but as Black men, we want to tell you brothers out there that we understand, and we, like you said, we commiserate with you. But at the end of the day, keep pushing, right? Just keep pressing,
100%.
and eventually when you get there, you'll be able to understand the person that you may be able to help might get there faster. Brother Ike, go ahead and let them know what they're going to be expecting from subscribing to your channel. The first comment pinned to the top. What are they going to expect from your channel, brother?
Okay, you're going to expect very practical knowledge. Now, I hope that I've been able to be practical and intuitive in my answers to this question, okay, the questions that were presented here. So I gave solutions, or I pointed to directions and solutions. But when I mentioned, okay, well, now you need self-awareness. Well, how do you get that self-awareness? Well, you need to develop concentration, equanimity, which is being relaxed and being balanced and being focused, and then sensory clarity. How do you develop sensory clarity? Just giving you an idea of how I present things and what you can get out of my channel. How do you develop those things? Well, you need to learn how to meditate, okay? Now, the meditation is the broad umbrella word that I would use, but you're developing certain talents or certain skills, which are concentration, sensory clarity, and equanimity. And these are the tools with which you master your subjective consciousness. Because anything that happens to you, okay, anything that happens to you in this life is going to be a feeling in the body, it's going to be an image in your head and talk in your head. That is the entirety of your subjective consciousness. That is the entirety of your user interface. There is nothing else. O'Shea is feelings in the body, image in his head, and talk in his head. Ike is feelings in his body, image in his head, and talk in his head. But no one ever quite teaches you how to get a hold of that machinery and control it. I present how you do that in a very systematic way, whether it be having a pyramid, a dashboard of, okay, well, you check your hydration, then you check your exercise and your sleep, and then you check these things before you do that other thing. That's the kind of thing that I present in my channel. And then we go into more objective things, such as how do you use these skills then to be a good presenter, a good salesperson? How do you influence people? How do you persuade people? Okay. How do you make people comfortable? And then they open up their wallets and they give you dollars, or they open up their influence, they open up their Rolodex, and so on and so forth, in order to do better. Again, being better, doing better with the information presented in a very simple, measurable, intuitive, and actionable way.
All right, and brother, I definitely appreciate you for coming on to the platform. And you're really, really talented, man. And we want to encourage other brothers out there that are like Brother Ike and have things to say, because we need to get like men's opinion, not only on helping other brothers come up, but just to share their experiences, let you know that if a brother that had problems, with his eyesight and hard to understand math, he did what he needed to do to get to the engineering degree, to get to the master's. If he can do it, he's just here to let you know that also that you can do it. If I can do things, we're here to let you also know that you brothers also can do it. Brother Ike, any last words today?
Well, I would like to thank you one more time, O'Shea Duke Jackson. It must be freezing out there in Poland. And nice hat, by the way. It's always a pleasure. I feel very grateful. And to all the new subscribers that I'll be getting, let me go ahead and thank you in advance, because the last time that I was here, got a lot of new subscribers, and it's a great deal of encouragement that I get from them. And it will not be possible without you, sir. So thank you very much.
All right, brothers. And again, thank you for coming on, supporting the stream. A lot of you brothers love the late bloomer topics, and make sure that you go and check out Brother Ike, and check out all my information also pinned to the first comment. I should have my Patreon there, all the information. And as you know, the buffoonery remains at an all-time high. I'm out.